Imagine walking into a room where everyone expects you to fail because your predecessors haven't figured it out, since disco was king and the internet was a fever dream. That was the American men's hockey team walking into the arena in Milan. 46 years. That is nearly half a century of waiting, hoping, and frankly, failing to meet the impossible standard set by a bunch of college kids in Lake Placid. Since 1980, the United States has treated the Olympic gold medal in men's hockey like a long-lost relative they only mention at Thanksgiving. But on this Sunday in 2026, the drought didn't just end, it was vaporized. If you thought the miracle on ice was a one-off fluke of Cold War proportions, Jack Hughes and Connor Hellebuyck just sent a very loud, very bloody message to the world of hockey. And today on Pro Sports Coverage, we are breaking down why this wasn't just a win. It was a total professional exorcism. The stakes were simple but terrifying. Gold or bust. That was the mantra. American players spent months leading up to this tournament repeating those three words like a religious chant. It is an incredibly arrogant thing to say when you are staring down a Canadian roster that features the likes of Connor McDavid, Nathan MacKinnon, and Cale Makar. It is the kind of quote that usually ends up on a freezing cold take social media account 3 hours after you get bounced in the quarterfinals. But this American squad didn't care about your memes or your historical precedents. They were here to rewrite the script, and they were going to do it in the most dramatic way possible. Before we get into the blood and the overtime heroics, I want to plant a seed in your mind about the man who wasn't actually on the ice. Sidney Crosby, Turris, the man who single-handedly broke American hearts back in 2010 with that golden goal in Vancouver. He was out. A lower body injury from the quarterfinals against Czechia sidelined him. But here is the question we have to answer. Could a team with Connor McDavid wearing the captaincy in a top line that includes Macklin Celebrini actually be considered shorthanded? We will get to how that vacuum at the top changed the psychological landscape of this game in a few minutes, because the answer might surprise you. If you love it when the underdog stops being the underdog and starts being the problem, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button for Pro Sports Coverage and help us grow. We are here to give you the analysis that actually digs into the pressure of the moment, and we want you along for the ride every single week. The game started with a statement that felt like a punch to the jaw. 6 minutes into the first period, Matt Boldy decided he was done with the pleasantries. The Minnesota Wild Stars split two Canadian defenders like he was cutting through soft butter and fired a shot past Jordan Binnington. 1-0, USA. The Americans were playing with a swagger that felt almost dangerous. They were controlling the play, shifting the momentum whenever it threatened to drift toward the Canadian bench, and for a moment, it looked like Canada was still trying to find their legs without their usual leader. But here is the first drop. You don't just beat Canada, you survive them. In the second period, the ice didn't just tilt, it felt like the Americans were trying to skate up a vertical wall. Cale Makar, because of course it had to be Cale Makar, tied the game. The Canadians outshot the U.S. 19-8 in that period alone. It was a siege. The miracle was starting to look like a mirage, and the ghost of 2010 was starting to rattle its chains in the rafters. This is where Connor Hellebuyck enters the conversation, and we need to be very honest about his history. Hellebuyck came into these Olympics with some serious baggage. We are talking about a guy who was a reigning Vezina and Hart Trophy winner, but he had a nightmare in the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs. He got pulled 3 times in the first round. People called him leaky. They said he couldn't handle the heat when the lights were the brightest. Well, in Milan, he didn't just handle the heat, he became the fire department. He was sensational, stopping 41 shots in total. There was this one specific moment in the third period where he used his stick paddle to stop Devin Toews from tucking a rebound into what looked like a gaping, empty net. It was a masterpiece of desperation and technical brilliance. Earlier in the second, he stuffed Connor McDavid on a breakaway. Think about the mental strength required to stare down the best player in the world and say, "Not today." PK Subban said it perfectly after the game. You cannot afford to be a ballroom dancer as a goaltender in these moments. Sometimes you have to break dance, and Hellebuyck was out there putting on a clinic. Now, why was Hellebuyck so dialed in? Was it just revenge for 2025, or was there something else? Something in the locker room that we didn't see on the broadcast? I told you I'd circle back to the emotional core of this team, and this is the moment where we pivot. This is the second drop, and it hits much harder than a MacKinnon slap shot. This victory wasn't just about a gold medal or ending a 46-year drought. It was about a jersey hanging in the locker room. The jersey of the late Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey. He should have been on this ice. He would have been a candidate for this team. Instead, the Americans carried his memory through every single game of this tournament. They hung his jersey as a tribute, a constant reminder of why they were there. After the medal ceremony, the players brought two of Gaudreau's kids out on the ice to take a picture with the team and their father's jersey. This wasn't just a group of high-paid NHL stars playing for a flag. It was a brotherhood playing for a brother they lost. When you have that kind of emotional fuel, you don't just skate faster, you become invincible. It turns a tactical game into a mission. I want you to think about your own life for a second. We all have those moments where the pressure feels like it's going to crush us. We have those ghosts of past failures, those people who told us we weren't good enough, or those personal losses that we carry like lead in our pockets. The pressure these guys felt in that third period, with the score tied at 1, and the weight of nearly half a century on their shoulders. Isn't that different from the pressure you feel when you are at your breaking point? The difference is how you use it. These players used it as a shield. Then came the 93-second nightmare, a 5-on-3 penalty kill for the United States. If Canada scores there, the game is over. The narrative is written. The US chokes again. Canada wins another gold, and we wait another 4 years. But this penalty kill unit was a brick wall in a blizzard. They went 18 for 18 on the penalty kill throughout the entire tournament. They didn't just survive the 93 seconds, they sucked the soul out of the Canadian power play. It was a masterclass in positioning and sacrifice. By the way, if you're enjoying this breakdown of the game's psychological warfare, make sure to like this video. It really helps us keep the channel going and ensures we can keep bringing you stories that matter. And while you're at it, share this with someone who thinks hockey is just about guys hitting a rubber puck. Let's show them the heart behind the hustle. So let's talk about Jack Hughes. This kid is the face of the new generation of American hockey, but he's not just a skill player. In the third period, he took a high stick to the mouth from Sam Bennett. He went down. Blood was everywhere. He lost at least one, maybe two of his front teeth. In any other world, that's a trip to the emergency room and a night on the couch with a straw. In the Olympics, against your biggest rival, that's just a Tuesday. He stayed in the game. He was bloodied, his smile was permanently altered, but he was there. His teammate Matt Boldy said it best later on, more people are going to be looking at his medal than his teeth. The game headed to overtime. 3-on-3 hockey. It is the most beautiful and terrifying format in sports. It is essentially a high-stakes game of pond hockey where one minor mistake ends your greatest dream. 1 minute and 41 seconds in, the moment arrived. Zach Werenski wrestled the puck away from Nathan MacKinnon. Think about the technical difficulty of that. MacKinnon is a freight train with hands. Werenski outworked him, stayed composed, and sent a cross-ice feed to an open Jack Hughes. Hughes didn't hesitate. He didn't overthink. He fired a powerful shot past Jordan Binnington. Golden goal. The drought was dead. The U.S. had won their third men's hockey title and their first since the 1980 Miracle on Ice. Let's close those open loops. Remember what I asked about Sidney Crosby. His absence was felt, but not because Canada lacked talent. They had the best roster on paper. What they lacked was the guy who has been through every single fire and always knows how to find the exit. McDavid wore the C, and he played like a warrior, but the USS committee was just too deep this time. The Americans didn't just win, they swept the gold. The women's team had defeated Canada 2-1 in overtime just a few days prior. It was a complete and total takeover of the sport by USA Hockey. This victory on February 22nd, a date that is already legendary in American hockey history, wasn't a lucky bounce or a fluke. It was a professional, gritty, and deeply emotional statement. We are watching the shift of power in real time. The U.S. men hadn't beaten Canada in a best-on-best competition since the 1996 World Cup of Hockey. Most of the guys on this roster weren't even born then. They grew up hearing about 1980. They grew up seeing Canada celebrate in 2002 and 2010. They were tired of hearing about the past, so they decided to own the future. If this story moved you, if you felt that chill when Hughes celebrated with blood in his smile, then you know why we love this sport. This is pro sports coverage, where we don't just give you the box scores, we give you the soul of the game. Subscribe and tell us in the comments, is this the greatest American hockey moment of all time? Or does 1980 still hold the crown? We want to hear your takes. They said it would take another miracle to win gold again, but as it turns out, all they really needed was a brotherhood that refused to break. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.